Hello and welcome to another segment of Western Wisconsin Journal. I'm Jamie Johnson, and today we have two guests that are going to be speaking about the Hudson Grocery Cooperative, Joe Rulo and Sarah Atkins. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you
for having us.
And so what we'd like to do over the next 15 to 20 minutes is just tell folks a little bit. First of all, let's introduce you, and then we'll talk about the Hudson Grocery Co-op, okay? So first off, why don't you just introduce who you are, where you're from, how long you've been in the community, that type of thing. Sarah, we'll start with you.
Sure. My name's Sarah Atkins, and I'm from Afton, actually. Grew up, went to school in Stillwater, moved to Madison for 12 years, and then moved back to this community in 1995. So I've been here about 26 years now, and just really grown to passionately care for this community. I think just Hudson's a really terrific place.
Awesome. And Joe.
Yeah, just about 10 years after Sarah, I found myself in Hudson and found myself missing a co-op. Where I came from, we had a co-op grocery store, and it was always in the back of my mind. But my wife and I moved down here in 2005, so I've been here about 15
From
plus
where?
years. Northern Minnesota. So
Okay.
there's a co-op there in Virginia, Minnesota. Actually, they're in their third store. I might have
Gotcha.
mentioned that last time. It's kind of cool, 40 plus years, and it's fun to see.
Well,
how
you
far
folks
they've
are
come.
not alone as far as being from Minnesota. First of all, I married a Minnesota girl, and secondly, there's a lot of people from Hudson who, if they're not from Minnesota, their spouses are. But so I think I agree with Sarah's comment about Hudson being a great place to live, raise a family, send them to school, but just overall quality of life, we all have a vested interest in trying to keep that very high. So why don't we segue then from that to the Hudson Grocery Cooperative, and just from a macro view, what is HGC, or more appropriately, maybe who is HGC?
Well, so the founding group for the Hudson Grocery Cooperative was literally a mom's club at Willow River Elementary. Okay. And so this group of mostly women, we're like, Hudson needs a co-op. A lot of them had previously lived in Madison like I had, and had a passion for one of the co-ops in Madison is Willie Street Co-op. And a lot of us, that was our first experience as 18-year-olds going off to college and shopping at this store. We'd never really been to a co-op or knew what a co-op was, and just ended up realizing what a great community this co-op is building. You meet people, you learn about foods you've never heard of before, and so I think they just brought a real passion. They're like, well, why don't we start one? And so they were the founding members. They incorporated the co-op, got the bylaws organized and all the organizational papers taken care of, the committee charters and such. And that was really the foundation they laid for the co-op here in Hudson.
So is HGC a nonprofit?
It is not a nonprofit. HGC is a for-profit corporation. The big difference between a cooperative and a traditional grocery store is what happens to those profits. So normally, if you have a corporately owned grocery store, like a traditional grocery store, some of the money that they make has to go to the shareholders, because that's why they're in business. They're in business to make money. And this, in a grocery cooperative, instead of the profits going to some corporate owners, the profits get turned back into the store and are reinvested to make it a better place to work, a better place in the community, a stronger corporation, because either we'll make improvements to the store or increase benefits so that we have living wages for the community. So lots of times co-ops can provide a career rather than just a job. So that's the big difference, is what happens to the profits, and most of those profits are turned back into the business and used to make the business stronger and better.
Okay, now the cooperative, does it have employees?
Oh, sure. It's a regular business just like every other corporation. So we'll have, it's managed by a general manager who reports to the board of directors, and then it has a regular, staff just like any other grocery store.
How about the board of directors? Are they paid or is that volunteer?
No, though it's a volunteer position.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
And they report to their owners, so.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
to our owners, yeah.
all right, very good. And I've been holding up here a brochure that you've got. It's Hudson Grocery Cooperative, and it talks about what is a co-op, why a co-op, and how to support. And that's basically our outline for our talk here today. So Sarah used the word co-op quite a bit, short for cooperative, and there's different types of cooperatives, and we're talking specifically a grocery cooperative. So how is this grocery cooperative, let's say you already started giving the differences from a regular grocery store, but how would it be different than, say, a farmer's market, for instance?
That's a good question. Well, one thing we could think about with the grocery cooperative is it could be like a year-round farmer's market in a sense, because you've got that store. But from a cooperative standpoint, you've got the different 7 principles. The main thing about the 7 principles is that that there's one owner, one vote, so everybody's got an equal voice. I think that's super important. You're autonomous, so you get to operate autonomously. One thing that I think is really important too is that the cooperative, especially this year, because I kind of jumped in December and was like, how do we get this kind of going again this year? And cooperating amongst other cooperatives, I think, was really helpful for us and myself personally, just being able to talk and collaborate and say, well, both from co-ops that are startups to ones that are established, like how's it been going? The last year and a half's been really unique. What are you guys seeing different? Startup co-ops, what are you guys seeing? Can you have any advice? So they've been really good. So, and we've also got at our discretion a non-profit organization, FCI Food Co-op Initiative, who's been helpful for us, giving us some guidance as well. And Sarah and the group has been using them for a while.
So yeah, there's different types of cooperatives, and I didn't mean to get into all the different types. But you mentioned, electrical. People are familiar with gas co-ops because you can see gas stations that are co-ops. But and there's a lot of farm co-ops as well. But specifically when it comes to groceries, we're talking about a product that has already been harvested. Farmers market, it's kind of that segue, and so it's got some qualities that overlap with a farmers market, but also other principles that set it aside.
Sure. I think, you can see, as Joe had said, consider the produce section maybe was your farmer's market, because we do want to regionally source as much of our products as possible. But the mission of the co-op is to be more of a full service grocery store. So, will we sell pineapples? Of course. But we're not going to get those regionally, that kind of thing. So it's not all just regionally sourced products, and but we will, the goal of the cooperative is to make sure that all of the products that it does offer are as sustainable as possible, as local as possible, and that you can trust your food when you buy it at the co-op. That someone has given good thought to what product choices are actually on the shelf and what companies they are sourced from.
So what I'm hearing is that the key point to this is understanding and knowing where your food's coming from.
Food, yes, and other products as well. I mean, you will sell shampoo and all your basic needs to accommodate a home.
Okay.
That type of thing.
Now, what are some of the benefits and other values of a co-op? And I guess, Joe, that's yours.
Oh, no problem. And I think Sarah touched on it. I think the local is probably a really, really unique one. When I was talking with maybe about 6 to 12 different co-ops the last 6 or so months, I kept asking, what are you finding are the main benefits? Just of yourself in your community, what's unique, and they've always a couple that resonate. One is supporting the local economy, and that means quite a bit of stuff, but capturing more food for the local economy, which is so important. But it supports, on average, some co-ops can do somewhere around 20 to 25% of the revenues generated from the local economy, local vendors. So I think that's something really unique, and we keep hearing that more and more from our owners through our owner engagement, as well as just other co-ops. And propensity or the potentials there probably go 30% or higher. Builds community. I know Sarah mentioned that earlier. I think that's we have different organizations that are key in building community, churches, groups, clubs, et cetera. I think this is unique because it builds community around a foundation of food. in your local community. So that's something I always remember, was from everything from the educational classes that the co-op might put on to just people you meet and run into, and just the diversity that you get when you come into a co-op store. Obviously, you're putting in the store what your community wants, but you're also bringing other uniquenesses and things that people can't find maybe elsewhere. So I think that connects people, connecting people to food. It's like a kind of a cool medium. But the education, I think, is something cool. I remember learning a lot from the co-op that I was involved with when I was younger, just taking classes and learning things hands-on, soap, making beer, whatever. But it was really a cool experience, and that's something that I look forward to seeing, come from this as well for our community.
All right,
So,
and we're going to mention this a couple times. I think this is an appropriate spot. We've been asking about the Hudson Cooperative and getting information about grocery cooperatives in general. Where could people find this information? Do you have a website? Do you have a Facebook page? Both? What are they?
Absolutely. We have both. The co-op website is www.hudsongrocery.coop, C-O-O-P.
No hyphen in there?
No hyphen in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then for the Facebook page, I think if you just do a search on Hudson Grocery Cooperative, it will come right up.
Yeah.
Okay. Very
Yes,
And
that'd
we
be
have
great.
an Instagram as well. So
good. All right. So great. Now, why is it that you feel Hudson needs a co-op? I mean, if there's a co-op in Stillwater and there's a co-op in River Falls, isn't that, close enough?
Well, I think, when I go shopping, I like to have options. There are some things right now with our current grocery choices in Hudson. There are some things I buy at one store, and there's other things I buy at the other store. And, it would just be nice to have that third option that might have a more diverse product selection, different types of, different brands that aren't necessarily available at the others. And back to the benefit to the community, I remember back when I first started learning about the dollars. So we'd already talked about the profit from the co-op feeding back into its own organization. Right. Now Stillwater, the River City Market, River Market, they're already to the point where their profits are getting turned back to the owners in the form of dividends. On an annual basis, or whenever their CPA says time to give some money back to the owners. So just like any other corporation, your shares can pay off in dividends eventually. I don't imagine that's going to happen for a startup co-op anytime soon, but I also learned that the dollars that are spent at a Hudson Grocery, or at a grocery cooperative, circulate in the community many more times than your average grocery dollar. So when you go spend $1 and say, let's just say 10 cents of that is profit, that 10 cents is spent on giving money to a local farmer to get more inventory in, or it's spent on more wages that will in turn be spent by that hopefully local employee within the community. So that dollar circulates a lot of times versus when I spend $1 at a corporately owned grocery store.
That's trucking in its stuff from thousands of miles away.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the owners
Profits.
themselves could be living in New York, or they might not even live in this country if it's a chain grocery store.
Right.
That profit, that 10 cents, is immediately flying out of our community, and it's not circulating. So that's one of the passionate reasons I think that a grocery co-op would be so, good for our community.
Okay.
something like every dollar is like $1.60 is
Yeah,
circulated.
it's something like
It's,
that. We have a brochure somewhere, old one,
Yeah.
that says those statistics, but
And even
Well-
on the farming too. Sorry, Jamie.
Go ahead.
There, I think the other data I saw was that something like 2.5 times more farmers can be impacted locally from your co-op grocery store. So I think it's pretty wonderful. I hear all the time. I work in the food industry. I hear people like, we need to get more things going on with our local farmers, more things in our community. And I think the co-op obviously is a possible bridge for that, and will be. So.
And so what I'm hearing is, in no way are you attempting to necessarily compete with the farmers market. Some of the people who sell their produce as farmers market is seasonal, number one, and number two, I mean, it's just another outlet that they could participate in both, really. And so, but the big thing is having sustainable, consistent suppliers of food, and places where people can depend upon. So now, what I'm hearing, and this is building to a pitch for how folks can become members. But let's just talk about like what some of your goals and progress for the cooperative, because it's not like this is an idea that was just brought up last month or 2 months ago. I mean, folks, if they've been following our show, saw an episode that we taped from 6-7 months ago, leading up to an event where we were doing a movie review, and. So previously when you're on here, you gave a little history, but let's just a little bit of the history and where you want to take the organization. So I don't know, whoever wants to take that.
I can start and you can fill in if you want.
Sounds great.
Okay. So I think, we jumped in, we're a relatively new board back in January, we said earlier, and we jumped in like, okay, let's get our heads together and think about what can we really do to get the ownership numbers up, because through all the research you need to get to a certain level of owners' commitments before you can really lock in and get that store to make sense. And if you don't have a big enough site, it can't be relevant enough to house what we need for a community.
And this is kind of like right here, there's a little pictorial on how you start. So in May of 2012, the organization started, and then this shows how far the product grows. In this case, it's a beet, but you've used, that's the name of your, of your newsletter. So I
guess that. I didn't mean to put that paperclip there, but we're sitting right around that, approaching the 700 mark. I think today we're around 682, and our goal for the year, we started just a little over 600, was 750, because we wanted to make enough of a difference to get that momentum.
So you're on
going.
pace to hit that 750 by Christmas if we can get another 100 people that are watching.
Only
this.
68 more. Only 68 more. Yeah.
There you go. So we're it's something that just doesn't happen overnight. Took about 3 years to build to this point. But you've got your goal, and you believe that once you've got a location determined, funding in place, that you could open a store once you've surpassed that 1,000 owner spot.
Yeah, there's be some risks if we try to do it a little bit too soon. I mean, you can do it sooner, but from all the data, the research, hundreds of startup co-ops, I really encourage you to get to that level. One co-op we spoke with is in Oshkosh, the Oshkosh co-op, and they talked about how, at 1,000, once they announced that site, it really was the key. And they went from, I think, 700-800 in just a couple of years to 1,700 in such a short, and they just opened their doors about a month and a half ago, which is really wonderful. And they started just around the same time as us, and sure, they had some slower years and stuff, but they really kind of got things turned around a little bit. And a little later on, we'll talk a little bit about some of the conversations we've had, co-ops like that, and just trying to understand how to
well,
get
let's just, you mentioned the Oshkosh success story and their time frame. So what would you expect your timeline to be, in a realistic terms, I guess? Obviously you want it to happen tomorrow, but what's in realistic terms?
Well, I think one thing that's important to remember is, this is a startup, it is a corporation, it is a grocery store, it's a tough market. There is competition. There's definitely going to be other places for people to shop. So, like any startup, I started a company in 1996. We just celebrated 25 years, and I knew when I wrote my first business plan, you got to be strong out the door. If you come out kind of underfunded, undercapitalized, with not a good plan, and not all your ducks in a row, you are planning to fail. So it's just like any other grocery store. We have to have a solid plan. We have to have good funding, and it's a little bit harder because we're not just 6 people with deep pockets who want to open a store. That's not our profile. We're 680 people who are growing, hopefully, to 1,200 people. And then we can really get a good start. That's really important. So putting a timeline on it, our first and foremost goals right now are to get the ownership numbers growing again. We had just a couple of stagnant years, and that's okay. A lot of co-ops go through that, but we're coming out of that now, and we need some exponential growth to be able to determine a really solid timeline. If we could follow Oshkosh's path and get a big bump in ownership numbers,
You're basically
be a couple years.
50% of the way there. I mean, if every member got one more member,
We'd be there.
Yeah, we'd be there, and that's something I was going
and
to
so
say.
the paperclip analogy is, it's almost right there.
Yeah, right in the middle.
Yeah.
And so, what do you need from our community, Sarah?
Well, we need everyone who's watching this who's not an owner to become an owner. You know, there's the question, why would I want to do this now? Why wouldn't I want to become an owner after there's a brick and mortar store? It's because, well, if we all don't, put that $80 out there on the line and show that we want a store and that we're going to be shopping there once it opens, we won't be able to get there. So we need everyone who's not an owner to be an owner. We need everyone who is an owner to call up a friend or knock on a neighbor's door or introduce it to their church group or their book club or whatever. We need them to go talking about the opportunity. We do need volunteers as well. Volunteers maybe to do 10-minute presentations at local groups. I would love to see, if anyone who's watching has a group, a small group, a networking group, a club that they attend on a monthly basis, invite one of us to come in.
So they can go. There's a place they can go to the website and invite one of you folks to come to their meeting.
Reach out to the email address that's on the website. Say, hey, I have a group. We meet the second Tuesdays of the month. Can you come and give a 10-minute talk about the co-op? We'd love to learn, and we'll be there. You bet.
So they don't necessarily have to be an owner to help. I mean, just getting the word out. And if they're curious, they should act on that curiosity. Right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And for instance, I mean, I guess it starts at home, and so I have full disclosure. I'm an owner of with the Hudson Grocery Cooperative, and between kids and grandkids and jobs and everything, life is busy. But if I could, I can. It's a very simple thing to do for my Bible study group, for instance.
Yeah.
Mention the Hudson Grocery Co-op, and so when we're done today, if I could have a couple brochures, I'll be able to.
For sure, that's exactly what we need. We need, just get the word out, and the way to do that is through networking. And it's the best way we can go.
And we'd be happy to drop off some brochures for anybody, any of our owners or people in the community. We've had several businesses ask, you bring some in. We've got people willing to bring them in. One thing we did too earlier in the year was get some yard signs out. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of plastic, but sometimes we have to do what we have to do. So we've got volunteers on standby willing to deliver those, and it's been great. It's brought some more attention. And one thing I remember through some of our earlier calls when we were engaging with some of our new owners and that, they're like, well, we didn't even know this existed. So funny enough, even though everyone thinks everything is right there at your fingertips with technology,
It's been a tough year and a half because those events where large numbers of people go, I'm just thinking of the annual event at the hockey arena where, they would have community organizations, and HGC was there, being able to tell about their organization, but we're not doing those events or haven't done as many. We're starting to get out there slowly and gradually, but people can join this without necessarily having to go into spaces with large numbers of people.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of things can be done virtually, as we know, and
right.
Been doing those too, so it's been great.
Well, we talked about the event of the movie that folks were able to download, and then we had a movie discussion, but what are you got an event happening on September 21st, so tell us about what it is that you're doing and, how can people participate?
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity. One of the things when I was chatting...
First of all, let's give the name of the event first.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we came up with the name. It's the reasoning is it's sandwiched between the full moon and the autumnal equinox, or the first day of fall, on the 21st of September, from 5 to about 7:30. It's not you come when you'd like. It's up at Prospect Park. We're hoping to get a good turnout there. Hopefully the weather, knock on wood, will be good. Some good food, some local food, local farmer foods.
So it's at Prospect Park on what date?
September 21st, sorry, it's a Tuesday from 5 to approximately 7:30 p.m. The purpose of it is to celebrate, right? Celebrate, who we are, where we've come, even just this year, given all things, but also to engage with the community. People that are not owners can come in RSVP, so that information is also on our social media because we'd like to get people together. I think the key thing is, there'll be activities, maybe a speaker or two, but for people to just have conversations like this, and that naturally, then we can also learn what this co-op means for this community.
It's one thing to read a brochure or go to a website or even watch a YouTube segment, but it's another thing to be able to meet live people and get to know the folks who are actually making this thing a reality. So it's a great opportunity. What else is happening on that night?
Well, I'm all about fun, and it's even part of the co-op's vision is to create a store where shopping is fun. I mean, I love being able to feel like when I walk in the door of a co-op, I'm welcome, and I'm like, look at this interesting product. I've never seen that before. So, I think our vision was to open a vibrant grocery store offering products you can trust, where everyone is welcome and shopping is fun. Let's put some fun back into our lives, and we all need that, right? So I think the big thing about September 21st is to come with just a smile and a willingness to meet your neighbors and your fellow community members and have fun.
And people don't have to stay for the full two and a half hours.
No,
It's
come,
just,
eat, have a, I think we're going to have some local beer, and we're going to have some local brats from RJ's, I think, and
brats and beer. I'm there. So that sounds
Oktoberfest kind of is the underlying theme.
Like a Harvest Moon festival. So come with the attitude that this is going to be a fun event. That's what we would just want to. If we don't even talk, if people, we just want it to be fun. It's a party.
Well, and that's the other thing is people should know. You first of all, that $80 you mentioned to join as a member of the Hudson Grocery Cooperative, that is not like a monthly due or even an annual due.
Absolutely not. It's actually a stock purchase.
Okay.
So you own 3 common and 1 preferred stock. So each stock is $20. You own 4 of them, and they're treated just like the stock you would have in your 401k.
And this can be owned jointly by a household, like my wife and I are.
Actually,
members,
there are a couple of options for that. So the household ownership is $80, but if you choose, we have several members in our community that have chosen to be individual owners, where the husband and the wife, or the partner and the partner, whoever, they each contribute the $80.
Very good.
So you can either be household or individual. You can also be a corporate owner. So I know of several businesses in the community that have supported
I think
corporate ownership.
That's great. So no one's discriminated against whether they have partners or don't have partners, businesses or not.
If you want to be an owner, we can sell you some shares of stock.
Okay, excellent.
So I did want to mention some future events that we're signed up for.
That was my next thing on my list.
So after the Harvest Moon Festival, we are going to be appearing at the September, I think it's the following weekend, the Art Festival. Spirit of St. Croix Art Festival. So we'll have a booth there, so come see us there. We usually have an artful, creative table for kids to make some cool things. I don't know what we're doing this year or if it's been decided yet, but for sure stop by and say hi. If you're an owner, stop by and meet some of the volunteers. If you're not an owner, come and bring a check for $80 that day. That'd be great. We're participating in the Hudson Community Expo. That is October 10th. Now that one is at the Hudson High School this year. So the community has brought that back, but we're still, we're at...
So a community expo at the high school, October 10th.
October 10th.
Got it.
Now that one's indoors, so we'll have to watch what's going on with the precautions.
Yes.
And then we'll have our annual meeting in November. Last year we did that virtually. And I don't think it's going to be that easy to do a mix. So we'll either decide if we're going to do it either virtually or
to be determined. But it's still an opportunity for the co-op shareholders to get together.
Absolutely, owners, and we invite non-owners as well.
Do you have a time for or date and time?
We have not selected a date and time for that one yet.
It's just going to be in November.
Sometime in the next few weeks, I'm guessing.
Yep.
We'll announce it.
Hopefully you'll have that more than 1,000 members by that time.
Oh, wouldn't that be great?
We're hoping,
And in the first 3 months of next year, we're planning to return to holding the winter markets, which is a situation that we invite vendors to provide their winter offerings and invite the community to come and shop, usually a Saturday morning and at one of our schools. So
very good.
Watch for that too.
And anything else you want to add before we sign off?
Yeah, just one last thing. This year we did make a commitment to join back in with the chamber. So we got a chamber-facing team because we didn't want to just join but we want to make sure we're active and engaged and helping them out, as well as trying to participate in as many activities as we can. Obviously, Sarah's touched on a couple that they're facilitating, but also just want to encourage owners, and current and new owners to attend a board meeting. They're held virtually. We've got an owner forum, so there's an opportunity for anybody that has any questions or just has any comments. They got a few minutes. They can have the floor. So that's always encouraging for us, because this is what kind of helps guide us along too and motivate us. And then also the annual meeting, so encourage those owners to really come.
So monthly board meetings, one annual
Second-
meeting, which is to be determined whether it'll be in person and what the date and time will be. But you mentioned the Harvest Moon Fest, September 21st, 5 p.m., Prospect Park. That's the most coming up, most quickly
yep.
quickly approaching there.
Yeah.
And then we have the Spirit of St. Croix at the Art Festival. You'll have a table, and then also the Community Expo on October 10th. With that, I want to thank Sarah Atkins, Joe Rulo, and I want to encourage the viewers, check out Hudson Grocery Cooperative on the website, which was www.hudsongrocery.coop. So there is no dash there. And check out, and you can certainly Google Hudson Grocery Cooperative. It'll take you to the website, as well as on Facebook, there's a page too if you do the same search. And learn more about it, become involved, become an owner. I encourage everyone to do so. Thank you for watching another segment of Western Wisconsin Journal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah,
You
thank
bet.
you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.